In 2009, General Motors killed Pontiac. Not because the cars were bad, not because nobody wanted them, because a company fighting for its survival had to make brutal decisions, and Pontiac didn't survive the cut. This is how one of America's most iconic car brands went from muscle car legend to nothing. Pontiac didn't start as a performance brand. It started in 1926 as a budget companion to Oldsmobile, a way for General Motors to offer affordable cars to buyers who couldn't quite stretch to a Buick. For decades, Pontiac played that role reliably. Sensible cars, decent value, nothing special. Then, in 1964, everything changed. John DeLorean, yes, that John DeLorean, was a young engineer at Pontiac who believed the brand could be something more. He pushed through a project that GM's management had actively resisted, fitting a large V8 engine into a mid-size car and selling it to young buyers who wanted performance without the premium price of a full-size muscle car. The result was the Pontiac GTO. It wasn't supposed to exist. GM had a corporate policy prohibiting mid-size cars from having engines larger than 330 cubic inches. DeLorean and his team worked around it by marketing the V8 as an option package rather than a standard engine, technically keeping it within the rules while completely defeating the purpose of them. The GTO launched in 1964 and sold nearly 32,000 units in its first year. GM had projected 5,000. The muscle car era had begun, and Pontiac was at the center of it. Through the late 1960s, Pontiac built some of the most desirable American cars ever made. The GTO, the Firebird, the Trans Am. These weren't just fast cars, they were cultural objects. They appeared in films, on posters, in the garages of anyone who wanted to signal that they understood what driving was actually for. The 1969 GTO Judge, the 1973 Trans Am with the screaming chicken on the hood, the 1977 Smokey and the Bandit car. Each one burned itself into American culture in a way that most manufacturers only dream of. But the 1970s brought a problem that no muscle car could outrun. The oil crisis of 1973 hit American performance cars hard. Insurance costs for high-powered vehicles had already been climbing. Then, fuel prices spiked. Then emissions regulations tightened. The engines got smaller. The horsepower numbers dropped. The muscle car era, almost overnight, became the muscle car memory. Pontiac tried to adapt. They leaned into style over substance, building cars that looked aggressive but were powered by engines that struggled to embarrass a modern minivan. The 1980s were rough. The Fiero had potential but was hampered by underdevelopment and a fires scandal. The brand drifted, but Pontiac wasn't finished. In 2004, a genuine surprise arrived. The GTO returned, a proper rear-wheel drive performance car built on an Australian Holden platform with a 5.7-liter V8. It was fast, well-balanced, and priced aggressively. Nobody bought it. The problem wasn't the car. The problem was the badge. A generation of buyers had grown up during Pontiac's wilderness years, the years of underpowered, unremarkable cars. The GTO name meant nothing to them. And those who did know the GTO name were disappointed that the new car didn't look dramatic enough to carry it. Pontiac limped into the late 2000s with a limited lineup and shrinking sales. Then came 2008, the financial crisis. General Motors was hemorrhaging money on a scale that threatened its existence. The U.S. government stepped in with a bailout, but the price was restructuring. GM had to cut brands. Hummer, Saturn, and Saab all went. So did Pontiac. The announcement came in April 2009. Pontiac would be discontinued by the end of that year. The last Pontiac rolled off the line in December 2009. It was a G6 sedan, not a GTO, not a Firebird, not a Trans Am, a beige sedan. There's something deeply sad about that. A brand that defined American muscle, that gave a generation its first taste of genuine performance, that put a screaming chicken on a hood and made it cool, ending with a beige sedan. Today, the classic Pontiacs are worth serious money. The 1969 GTO Judge, the early Firebirds, the Trans Ams from the golden era, collectors pay premiums that would have seemed impossible in 2009. The brand is gone. The cars are not forgotten. Pontiac proved something that the auto industry still hasn't fully learned, that performance heritage is worth protecting. That a badge built over decades of genuine driving excitement can carry a brand through difficult years. And that when you abandon that heritage for long enough, not even a bailout can save you. Subscribe if you want the full story behind every legend. New video every week. No filler, just the cars that actually mattered. Next up, the Ford versus Ferrari war. The race that started with a humiliation and ended with one of the most dramatic moments in motorsport history.